All right, if we've timed this correctly, it should be Happy Eclipse Day.
Yeah.
So I'll be driving down to Arkansas. Anybody's going to be down near the London, Arkansas area, feel free to email me. You can swing by my campsite where we're going to be staring at the sun.
Watch it get eaten.
Watch it get eaten.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll bring like an apocalypse robe. I'll bring my Jedi robe.
Oh, there we go.
I can like we'll start a big fire and we'll start dancing around it and come on.
Yeah.
Celebrate I've already seen one end times video.
That's all.
I know, right? I think it's people burned out. Yet the last one is too recent.
Yeah, maybe so.
And I'm waiting for the cults to pop up. The blood moons are rising. Yeah. Anyways, so this episode's all about leveraging uniqueness. One of the things that is really nice in IT is that you can streamline things. You have a standard stack, like, hey, we do Sonic Wall, we do Cisco switches, we do whatever HP laptops, whatever it is, and that way it's easy to troubleshoot. But then we take it a little too far. We start treating all of our clients like these boxes that we can shoehorn things into.
Yep.
And if there's one thing Skip and I have learned about MSPs is each one of you is a unique little snowflake. I shouldn't use that term because it's kind of been tainted.
No. It's
you're all little like unique. Like you have your unique ways of doing business. You have your unique second. Like people always ask us, why don't you just integrate like this? And because you're one of 10 people who do that.
Yeah.
We've got to look at the other 20,000.
Yeah. It's not their unique snowflakes. It's their unique snowflakes living in their own unique snow globe. So I totally get that, but it's kind of funny. I mean, you see so many similarities, but of all the MSPs that we work with, category, I can say none of them, hands down, are just like the other.
Yeah, I mean, you got like Mike. You've got Davey Anderson over at 5 Nines. He's in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we have a different ecosystem. And you got Mike Giovanni with Get Networks, and he's got a different system over there on the East Coast. And so they can't hit their clients the same way. There's some overlap, yes.
Yeah.
But also we're unique in our economies, what we care about, how the small businesses run each other, where they meet up. There's all this unique stuff out there. And how do you cater to that? Well, like, I can't tell you. There's nothing that Adam Walter or Skip Ziegler can say, like, treat them like this, other than to say, be curious.
Yeah.
Know your environment. Know the unique challenges. When I went down to Lafayette for Taylor Business Group last year, I was pissed. I'm sitting at the airport. I cannot get a lift. No, I mean, it's like an hour out to get and I tried Uber, I tried Lyft, I tried checking if there's some other cab company. I'm like, what is wrong? This is not a small town. You know what the problem was?
It's Mardi Gras. Okay, yeah, it was Louisiana.
It was Mardi Gras, and I was completely unaware, and because of that, it caused disruption in my travel schedule.
No,
I did not take into account the culture I was walking into. And again, this is only 12 hours from my hometown. This isn't like across the globe. This is United States.
Yeah,
and there was an event going on that was major, which a lot of people celebrate, which I really don't, other than for an excuse to get a margarita.
Yeah.
And it cost me some problems. Now, how many things are happening in your local town that you can take advantage of, or that your small businesses in your town can take advantage of, that you can help them with? I talk about things like trade shows. For instance, like the air show came into Lincoln. It's this huge event where people come across all the Midwest to see this air show. Mm-hmm. And we've got this big wide open area. So because of the way Nebraska is, we're very flat in certain areas, and you can get some really cool air shows.
Yeah.
And all these vendors come in to the tarmac and they set up their shops where they're selling t-shirts, they're selling food, but there's a problem with that. All of them are doing payments over cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
So they're all competing for the cell phone tower with like 30 to 80,000 other people at any given time. Not 30, probably 100,000 people at any given time.
Yep.
And so everything is congested.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you say to an IT person, hey, I need to work remotely. I need to take transactions, but I can't use a cell phone. Can you help me out here?
Mm.
Now, the IT guy is going to think of several things you can do.
Yep. That would get creative.
You can go back to old, like
no, they don't have those in it. I dug my machine out. You can't do those anymore. They won't let you. I have one of those machines.
Oh man, are they no longer PCI compliant?
That might be it.
You can now think, okay, I will set you up with Starlink.
Mm-hmm. If you can get a device.
Yeah. So maybe you have one out for a loaner. Mm-hmm. So you as a technology person can solve this problem.
Yes.
Or, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a bigger antenna and we're going to switch you over to a different tower. Maybe you got some really good cell phone knowledge. These are different things you can do because you have a unique set of knowledge that you can help give this particular vendor an edge. I know when I was on the tarmac and I was just trying to get a freaking burst or something, hamburgers, my kids are yelling, they want food, and I'm sitting there getting the shakes and, I'm going to sacrifice one of my children here in a second if I don't get some food. And the vendor's like, we can't, we're cash only right now. I'm like, I don't carry cash on me. And so I ended up finding one and kind of walking them through how to like get a clear signal, how to move their thing around, and eventually got through. I'm like, let's get free food for that. But then I started thinking to myself, like, where are the IT people at? Why didn't they help them? Like, because they did not lean into this unique event going on to give them an advantage. Yep. There should have been like, hey, if you're a 5 nines customer and you're in Lincoln, Nebraska on the tarmac, we have set up a Starlink uplink, and we've got a Wi-Fi going that you can get into.
Yep.
Only for 5 nines customers.
Yeah.
And
there's all sorts of opportunities like that.
Yeah. So
and they're not necessarily unique. So I was working with one of our members a few weeks ago. We're kind of going through some of their clients and just talk about different things and kind of where they're focusing. And at one point they'd had, I don't know, maybe a handful of financial advisor small shops. And they liked those, but for whatever reason, I don't remember all the details. Those customers had kind of transitioned over to the Edward Jones sort of affiliation or whatever. And they said, of course, now we can't do anything with them because they got the big corporate, sort of input. And I was thinking, and I mentioned something to him about it. We have another member who targets just those customers. And he's got a fantastically loyal customer base because he is able to navigate all of the little nuances of that environment and still provide very hands-on and, when possible, customized solutions to those organizations. And so they love him. So where one person saw it as a closed door, we've got another member who's found the key to that door and is opening it every time he runs across one. So those uniquenesses you got to, just like you said, Adam, you got to lean into those. You got to embrace those to maximize what your organization can do.
Yeah. You can use the standardized approach to help yourself, like a disk profile, for instance. That's a good place where you can generalize and be obtuse and get somebody into a box. And so the DISC, if you guys are familiar with that. And I can say, okay, this is a IS personality type. Now that you've kind of boxed it a little bit, now start diving into what makes them unique. What do they care about? How can I help them? So with your clients, yes, it's okay to be general. Like, here's my general stack. Now, I know you're a dentist office. Now let's dive in a little bit. Like, what makes them unique? Oh, they're a family practice that's been around for 100 years. Mark that down. They really care. They have a very loyal family base that returns. Like, their kids come in. Like, this is a 3rd generation going to this dentist office. So there's this unique value add. And so there's this high amount of relationship. Well, maybe you need to help the dentist, train the dentist on how to use TikTok or to use Reels to give advice on teeth care or braces care or whatever it is that they talk about. And that way they keep that relationship going, or other things they can do to leverage technology to maintain those relationships or help them with medical records. I don't know. I'm not a dentist. I don't know how things work. I'm just trying to spitball here.
Yeah.
And the idea is lean into that. Start at high level, generalize. Have your stack. Have your A, B, C, D client base, but then like dive down a little bit and lean into what makes this client unique. What makes you unique as an MSP? And how can you put those two together? So if you are an MSP that focuses on schools and everybody knows you focus on schools and you're really good at that stuff, you lean into that, but you still have to treat each school a little bit different because some are private schools, some are public schools. The funding comes in different ways. You've got your charter schools, which may be science focused. So you're going to lean into like the Maker's Lab, the 3D printers, the cool kids programming things they have out there. And then you have another school, which is art focused. Okay, you're going to focus on creative suites. You're going to focus on tactile interfaces. And these are that's where you're going to lean to. But you're the expert. You are the one bringing in some. So they're going to be really sticky.
Yeah. And that's it. Well, when you identify those elements, it allows you to build more relationship because you're providing unique services that those customers are going to really, really appreciate. But again, I know I keep harping on this because I don't know, maybe it was a learning experience somewhere along my professional career, but that margin, I mean, the amount of money that you charge is one thing, but the really, really important part is how much of that money do you get to keep? And, you can charge a fantastic price, but if you aren't keeping a good margin of that, then it's not a profitable solution. So you've got to not focus on price, but focus on what you do well, what's going to make you money. And the cool part about that is it's not just being greedy. Oh, I can make a whole lot of money and I'll do this. But the value that you bring actually enhances what the client can do. And it is one of those true win-wins. You can do something unique for them that empowers their business to do more than they could do without you or any other MSP necessarily. And they're more successful and it makes you more successful. And that is going to be a long-term relationship that you're not going to worry, this customer is just on the edge. We've all had a few of those, right? For whatever reason, their finances are struggling and, you're sitting down with them and you're like, I don't know if they're going to, be around next month. That, I may lose this account, not because we're doing a bad job, not because we're overpriced or there's, some other different issue there, is the client just simply might not be able to pay their bills and they might go under. So, you want to be definitely working with companies that are making money because as they make money, you'll be able to make money.
Yeah. And then you get that value prop of, oh, wow. They helped me during that trade show and we tripled our income because we were able to process transactions faster. Man, I am not going to shake this group.
Yeah.
I am going to keep them as part of our portfolio because they are integral to us making money. You want to become integral to your clients making money. You want to be that part. If you want a seat at the table, show them that you deserve it.
Yeah.
By understanding their unique value in the marketplace and how you are providing unique value that they can't get from another MSP. So when you come in, you say, hey, we are very familiar with Google Classroom. We are familiar with Chromebooks and we're familiar with the Lutheran school system.
Yeah.
They can go over to any other MSP in the area and say, hey, look, we'd like to just get a competitive bid from you guys and see how things are going and make sure we're still getting a good idea. So is there a good school is doing good due diligence? And they go say, well, what's your experience with Lutheran schools? And they say, well, we really don't work with Lutheran schools. We've worked with other school systems. And then that's a gap. So you're charging, 20% more than your competitor, but because they can't align or don't understand the culture of the Lutheran school system, they immediately get written off.
Yeah.
And that's leaning into uniqueness because you're providing a unique value. Now, as an MSP, you should look into your market and do a market analysis. Don't lean into uniqueness for a one-man shop that's one shop in all of Lincoln, Nebraska. Look and see, like, is there a group of these? Yep. Is there a market that is underserved? So look if you really wanted to come up with a good business college student project for an internship at your MSP, here's what I would do. Is Adam Walter's advice for an intern program in the summer. Have a business intern come in, maybe a pair, pay them $20 an hour and say, here's what we want you to do. We want you to take every business in our area. We want you to break them down by industry, sub-industry, and group them together. And then look at all of them. I want everything from ice cream shops to attorneys to state and local government offices. And I want them categorized. You got to come up with a categorization system. I want you to break them down into groups of, say, 10 at the minimum. And at the end of the summer, look at this and see, are there some big segments that are unique, like flower shops? Okay, are they underserved? Well, one flower shop's underserved, but when there's 200 in your town, now you start thinking, okay, we can treat them like one customer. Now that $500 MRR, say it's a monthly recurring fee for 500 times, you get half of them, 100 of them. Now you're starting to see some decent revenue.
Yep.
And they're all treated the same. They get the same kiosk, the same treatment. And when you come up with a solution, like, hey, when you're at that trade show, you get to use our unique wireless and not rely on the crappy event wireless.
Yeah.
You can do fun things like that are now makes sense from a budget standpoint, because you have these interns do this market analysis and you realize that there's a really large untapped bunch of dentists out there or hairstylists out there, and we can treat them logically like one unit because they behave like one unit. They're unique,
right?
In that the one person doesn't make sense, but all of them, if we understand it, maybe my wife's a hairstylist, so I understand this industry.
Yeah,
I can help them out. You're talking about like hairstylists. You're talking about people who will spend $1,200 on a pair of scissors.
Yeah, that's true.
They have money.
Yep.
But they pay $1,200 for a pair of scissors because that is their livelihood. And then they will pay another, $60 just to have them sharpened and taken care of. And you need to lean into these things, this unique industries, but realize there's a bunch of them. And you can provide a unique solution to them via technology that allow them to make money. And then you become extremely sticky.
Yes. Well, and I think there's an element there, and maybe it's not just, industry. Maybe you do have a wide scope of industries that you're supporting, but sometimes it's unique solutions within those. So we were working with one company, they did structured cabling. Right. So we leverage them as contractors every once in a while because we didn't want to run the guys that, were on the ladders all the time. But they also did a lot of electrical work and just things that were completely outside of our scope. But they needed an IT shop. So we're helping them out. And they had a very interesting dilemma. So I'm talking to the owner there, and he's complaining because someone else has dropped yet another laptop off of a ladder. Right. And it's just really frustrating. And these guys need access to a couple of tools, and they're not necessarily lightweight tools. So I think it's kind of about the time that Chromebooks really started coming around. And he was like, man, I need some of those cheap laptops, but they won't do what we need them to do. And I saw something there. And so I started digging in a little bit. And sure enough, they were just a lot of things fell into place. And the end of it is we were able to provide to them virtual desktops. And in that virtual desktop, they had all the powerful tools that they need to do these specialized tasks that they were doing. But we ran that virtual desktop on a really, really cheap laptop. And so when those fell off the ladder, it wasn't, a huge expense for him. He was still chewing somebody out, right? But, he was replacing that laptop for $400 rather than for $1,200. And he had complete control over licensing, all these unique little apps that he's got going and all these expenses. And we brought all of this to him just by using virtual desktops. And it was a very unique solution, especially at the time. That was some of my most bleeding edge sort of implementations. And it was different than anybody. Nobody else could provide that solution to them. And so there was a huge value, and not that we're going to overcharge them, but I didn't have to debate so much about my price. Again, going back to margin, I could package that up the way it needed to be, and there was nobody to compare pricing with. So it either fit his business model or it didn't. And we worked together so that it did, and it was a profitable solution for both of us.
Yeah. So having those uniqueness helps you, as well as I know in forums, I see this all the time where people are making fun of a client for having a Windows 7 PC or a Windows XP PC. And they're like, oh, you need to upgrade them. Like, do you? Why? Do you even understand why they're still running XP or 7 on that machine? Mm-hmm. Tell me you're a young IT guy without telling me you're a young IT guy. Because I can tell you many really valid situations where you run Windows 7, even though it's end of life, on very important systems controlling your livelihood.
Yes.
Now, you go into a manufacturing plant, you go into industrial plants of any kind, for that matter, pill manufacturing, whatever it is, you will find these machines. There is a clone of them. Mm-hmm. They are tuned, they are hardened, and they are set. And they run one piece of software, and they make millions of dollars an hour.
Right.
Now, you're going to come in and tell me that as an MSP, you refuse to work with that Windows XP machine? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go to the next client. I'm going to go find an MSP who's going to support this Windows XP machine in the way that we need it supported. And I just see so many of these well-intentioned IT people who say, I'm not going to deal with a Windows 7 machine. That's not best practice. I'm not dealing with a NT4 box. That's not best practice. Without understanding why is this client uniquely qualified to have this kind of machine. Now, if you walk in there and you say, oh yeah, NT4, we support that. We're very familiar with the use of that in manufacturing plants. We know that shutting that machine down even for 20 minutes costs you $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand that machine has been up for the past 20 years, and there won't be a maintenance cycle until they replace the entire assembly, which is worth $20 million.
That's it.
At that point in time, then you can upgrade, but only after you've tested it for a good year. Yeah. And so there's these rules that you have to deal with. And for MSPs that are good at dealing with manufacturing, and if you have some friends who have MSPs who are good at dealing with manufacturing plants, go ahead and ask them about this.
Right.
Like what the testing is alone, just to make sure that the piece of software works well. Yeah. And that it's going to be good. So when you've got a Windows 7 machine that has been bulletproof, it's been hardened, it is running solidly for the past 8 years with this piece of software, that manufacturing plant isn't going to swap that machine out just because you went to a seminar on best practices and you know that there are vulnerabilities in Windows 7 that are covered under Windows, blah, 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 whatever version you're supporting now. So you have to lean into that uniqueness with the client because they need you to. And if you are familiar with that, like, oh yeah, I see you're running the Windows 7 box. I bet you're running this security profile. And we totally support that. We worked with a manufacturing plant down the street, Bob John over there. And like, oh yeah, I know him. Oh, you support them? Cool. Now they're willing to pay your extra high costs because you keep staff on hand that can support these machines, whereas everybody else has given up on them.
Right. Well, here's a real interesting deal about those type of devices. And it goes back to being curious. So you need to check yourself, and maybe you need to keep an eye on your staff. If someone rolls in and does a network scan and sees a Windows XP box, is their first response go, we got to get that out of there? All right. Or is it, hey, what are you doing with that box? Tell me more about this. Right? Rather than just assuming that, hey, that's old, we're going to upgrade it to something new. Find out what they're going to do. And I've experienced this firsthand. You ask them what it is, and they're like, oh, that runs a piece of machinery. We would love to upgrade it. If you get them time to talk, sometimes they'll tell you what they want to do, which matches up where you think they need to go. They said, we would love to upgrade that box, but we spent however many millions of dollars on some hardware that works great, but the company that manufactured that has long since gone out of business. And so we're making bank on this solution, but it is dependent on this one piece of software, which only runs on Windows XP.
So
right? Now you've got options.
So here's where Adam Walter comes in. I just listened to what Skip had to say. He told me about this machine that has to run this hardware. The manufacturer went out of business. They can't get more software updates. So it has to run, right? I'm going to look down and go, I notice you don't have any tamper tape on it. Let's go ahead and get you set up. Let's put some tamper tape across the USB ports and across the any inputs you have on there, and make sure the box is sealed so we can tell if it's been messed with. And also, basically what tamper tape does is, for those of you guys who have never used it, is you can use it to cover up or put it around the edge of a server to see if somebody broke the seal. Largely what it's good for is to remind a tech when they're on site, don't touch this. If you do touch it, you're going to be in trouble. And that way it makes sure that some well-meaning employee doesn't put a USB key in the back because they were just trying to get their job done. Hey, I see you look at this Excel file quick, jacks it into the back. No! Yeah. So you put tamper tape over the extra ports. Now, the client may have never have considered this.
Yeah.
And because you came in and said, oh, I get it. You need to run Windows XP here. Let's go ahead. I've got tamper tape back in my office. Let's go ahead and put a work order in and have somebody come in and put tamper tape over these ports and over the outside of the box. You can still get in like normal, but if you move the tape, it'll look all wonky. We can tell if somebody has tampered with it.
Well, and
therefore you're helping them.
Yeah. Even I can, the look of relief, and you talk about solving clients' pain points. They know this is an issue, right? They know their business is running on this. They're protecting these boxes. They've got, their own little protective bubble around it. Don't touch this, because they're nervous about what happens. And you can come in and go, we can schedule a little bit of downtime. We can take an image of that, and I can run that software on this brand new box right here. We can run that software on any box that you have sitting around. And all of a sudden the relief comes on them because they've been worrying about this PC. What happens if it's a single point of failure and they can't solve it, and it drives them crazy. It keeps them up at night. And you come in and you go, hey, I can take that pain away. I can make it so you can sleep at night. All right. Now you're partnering with them. You're solving problems. And it's not about upgrading the dumb OS. It's about running their business and keeping them profitable. That is a good place to be.
Yeah. So to wrap up, because you understand the uniqueness, you become valued and you become part of their program. By treating everybody the same and saying you all must be on Windows X, or on Mac OS X, or whatever your system is. You're not listening to the client. Maybe it is that you need to be on those, and no one's been able to get them up to there. Yeah. But you need to understand the why first.
Yes.
So that you can meet them in the middle. And so you can explain to them like, hey, we do need to get you Windows 7 on this because this is a network capable PC. And if that system goes down, you're screwed. And I know it's been up, but that thing, given these hacks that happened in the last 3 years, is due. Yeah. It's due to be shut down. What if it gets crypto locked? So you can explain to them on their level, and they can decide, does this match? Does this work out in my threat assessment as being something I need to care about? And then you're on their grounds. It's a different conversation than just upgrade because I told you so.
Yes.
Why won't my client do what I tell them to? Because you're not listening.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's all. Yeah.
Happy day for solar eclipse. And I hope that you all look up. And for those of you in the totality zone, enjoy the show. If you're
don't look at it without special lenses. I'm not going
If
to
you're
bring
near
up
a totality zone, I highly recommend making the trip. If it's within a couple hours, we won't see another one of these for 20 years. So
something like that.
Enjoy these unique situations. Enjoy the show. Take your kids to see them. Help them understand that we live in a cool place that has some cool stuff happening.
That's it.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.